Can we talk about the Utah Jazz for a second? I feel like they're the most sneakily under the radar team in the NBA right now. Like I've just been looking at their roster and their contracts and everything for the past couple hours, and they're looking really good for the future. For example, they have 3 first-round draft picks this year. 3! And all 3 of them are decent. You have the 9th overall pick. Yeah, you're not going to get Wembanyama or Scoot or Brandon Miller, but you're going to get someone decent. They have the 16th, which a lot of players who are pretty good go midway through the first round. And then you have the 28th. I mean, it's not amazing, but it's good. And they're a young team. The Utah Jazz are a young team. All 3 of these draft picks, if they decide to use all of them for drafting players and not trading, which they could also trade, but if they don't, they can use all 3 of these guys on their roster next year. They're a young team, and they can develop all 3 of these guys. They can develop all 3 of them. And it's kind of perfect because you don't have any first-round draft picks next year. So all 3 of these players can have 2 years to develop, minimum. You're not going to go out next year and draft someone just to take someone's place you draft this year. Unless, of course, they trade away the picks. They have 3... I'm looking at their draft picks right now. They have 3 first-round picks in 2025. They have their own. They have Cleveland, and they have Minnesota. Granted, I think Cleveland and Minnesota are going to be decent teams next year, so they're probably not going to be very good. But it's just more trade capital. And by 2025, their young players should be semi-developed. Lauri Markkanen, who was a first-time All-Star this season, I'm very high on Lauri Markkanen. I think he can be all NBA, and I think he can develop into a really good player for the Utah Jazz. Keep in mind as well, they drafted Walker Kessler last year, who was second in Rookie of the Year voting. And he has potential to be an all-defensive player every single year he's in the NBA. And he's really young. So you got him, you got Walker Kessler, Lauri Markkanen, 2 big, they're both big. Lauri Markkanen can shoot. You got Walker Kessler who can play defense. I think they have Jordan Clarkson they got Jordan Clarkson this year. I don't know if Jordan Clarkson's going to stay for very long. You got Ochai Agbaji. I definitely just butchered his last name, but I saw him play at Kansas. I saw him play last year. I think he can be a very good player. He's not super young, but wow, he's 23, 24, I think, maybe 22. He's going to develop into a great player. They got Colin Sexton, who, he's their only financial burden right now. They could very possibly trade him. But even if they don't, Colin Sexton was big for them last season before he got injured. He was big. And as far as free agents go, I can't see them signing a huge name, but they'll have the money to sign someone very solid. They're not going to get an all-NBA type player, but I don't think they necessarily need one. The players that they draft this year could very well become great players. They could very well become great players. And I haven't even been talking about their front office or their coach. Will Hardy, he's 35 years old. I believe he's the second youngest coach in the NBA under the Celtics coach, Joe Mazzulla. And then Danny Ainge is an amazing general manager. He basically built what the Celtics are now. So he knows what he's doing. He made a great trade with Rudy Gobert. He got so much value out of Rudy Gobert. Way more than he should have gotten. To be fair, the Timberwolves are... I don't even want to get into the Timberwolves. But they made a horrible trade. He got a lot of value out of Donovan Mitchell. Side note, isn't it just crazy that they got more compensation from Rudy Gobert than Donovan Mitchell? Isn't that just wild? Whatever. But back to the roster. Actually, Yeah, back to the draft picks. Back to the draft picks. So we went over 2025. And in 2026, they have 2 first-round picks. They have their own and Minnesota or Cleveland. And who knows by 2026? Maybe Donovan Mitchell's not on the Cavs. Maybe the T-Wolves are bum. Hopefully not. But they might be. They just might be. They have 3 first round. No, they have 4 first rounds in 2027. They got 4. They got their own Minnesota, Cleveland, and the Lakers. I feel like the Lakers could be bum cheeks in 2027. That's actually such a good pickup. But yeah, they're set on draft picks for the future. They don't need to worry about draft picks. And if we're being honest with ourselves, yeah, they were 12th in the West last season, but they got rid of all of their franchise players. All of their players who have been their star players for them, they got rid of. They got a new head coach. They basically started over. All their players were like brand new, and they were 12th in the West. Probably the best conference. They were 36-43. A couple more wins, and they probably would have made play-in. They were 9th in offensive rating. They were 9th. The only reason that they weren't a better team is because they had a defensive rating. And I watched some of their games last season. And if you're asking me, I don't think they did as well as they could have because I think they were tanking a little bit. I don't think they wanted to do as well as they could have last season because I think they wanted to utilize their newly acquired draft picks. I mean, I don't know. This could be bull, but because it did only give them the 9th pick, so maybe not. But regardless, you got Lauri Markkanen, who's under contract for 2 more years. And from what I've been seeing, I think he really likes Utah. So I could see him being their new franchise player. Just get a little more defense around them. All their players can develop because of how young they are. They got a good veteran on their team. They got Rudy Gobert, a good veteran. They got Kelly Olynyk, who's a good veteran. Jordan Clarkson's a good veteran. Let me see. I mean, that's all you really need, honestly. Dang, I didn't even know they had Chris Dunn. That's wild. Huh. I just don't understand why no one's talking about the Utah Jazz. Like, sure, they don't have as many picks as the Thunder. They don't got Shea. So they're kind of like a step down from the Thunder, in my opinion. But they could easily get to where, I don't know, like the Cavs are in a couple years. Because the Cavs 2 years ago, they were horrible. They made a bunch of moves. They let their players develop. And they became a really solid team. And next year, the Cavs, who knows? They could win it all. I could see them doing very well next year. And I think the Utah Jazz could become a team like that, which is ironic because they traded Donovan Mitchell, who's on the Cavs now. If your favorite team's in the West, I would just watch out for the Jazz. They should have been way worse than they were this year. They should have been way worse. And they could have also been better. So I think the Utah Jazz got a very, very bright future.